Last April, I turned 18. My birthday was on a Saturday, so of course I celebrated with my friends. The following Monday, I celebrated a rite of passage, my trip to the county courthouse to register to vote. And it was with great anticipation that I awaited the day that I could actually exercise my right to vote, which was guaranteed to me by the 26th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. My senior year, I made a few trips to Washington, D.C. as a part of two different delegations, advocating to our senators and representatives about two important issues in my state: rural electric cooperatives and career and technical education. I'm still really excited to actually exercise my right to vote for things that are important to me that I think will strengthen our country. Our country is built upon a strong democracy. Americans have fought and even died in a revolution for the freedoms that our democracy affords, chief among them the right to vote. Our forefathers came to this country seeking freedom from tyranny. They left a monarchy where they had no voice, seeking a new world and a new way of life. They fought and many died, hoping that their countrymen might be free and have a government in which they had a say, a democracy, one in which the people ruled and not a king. Thomas Jefferson said it best when he said, "Should things go wrong at any time, the people will set them to rights by the peaceable exercise of their elective rights." As one of the framers of the Constitution, Jefferson believed that the right to vote was central to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Building upon this principle, six amendments to the U.S. Constitution expanded voting rights, specifically the 14th, 15th, 19th, 23rd, 24th, and 26th Amendments to the Constitution. Originally, the Constitution only granted white, male property owners the right to vote, which was only 6% of the population at that time. Eventually, all property qualifications for white men were abolished, but it took a bloody civil war to guarantee the right to vote for all men. The Dred Scott decision held that anyone of African descent imported into the United States and being held as a slave, or their descendants, whether or not they were slaves, were not protected by the U.S. Constitution and could never become United States citizens. However, in 1868, the 14th Amendment was passed, which granted United States citizenship, whether by birth or naturalization. Just 2 years later, in 1870, the 15th Amendment was passed. It was designed to prohibit discrimination against voters based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. In 1920, women were finally granted the right to vote by the passage of the 19th Amendment. It's hard to believe that less than 100 years ago, women suffragists were subject to arrest, and many were jailed for fighting for the right to vote. In 1961, the 23rd Amendment was passed, which guaranteed the residents of the District of Columbia the right to vote. The people living in the seat of democracy were finally eligible to exercise their right to vote. There were still many injustices, though. In the South, one may have to interpret an obscure section of the state constitution and pay half a week's salary before being able to register to vote, while others in the same town would simply have to sign their name. In 1964, the 24th Amendment was passed, prohibiting poll taxes that had kept many poor blacks from voting. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act prohibited literacy tests and other discriminatory practices. This fight took 4 years, and many died in its pursuit. In 1971, the 26th Amendment was passed, which granted adults ages 18 through 21 the right to vote. As Birch Bayh put it, you had young people that were old enough to die in Vietnam, but not old enough to vote for their members of Congress that sent them there. All of these rights came about because of people who passionately believed that it was their right as an American citizen to participate in their government and risk their freedoms and even their lives while doing it. But with all rights comes responsibilities. Wouldn't it be great if American youth were just as excited to register to vote as they were to get their driver's license? Many Americans claim that they don't have time to vote, but President Rutherford B. Hayes reminds Americans that to vote is like the payment of a debt, a duty to never be neglected if its performance is possible. Other Americans claim that their vote won't make a difference. However, Congresswoman Barbara Boxer claims that in the voting booth, everyone is equal. Closed elections have proven time and time again that every vote counts. Still, as powerful as a vote can be, it is a dangerous tool in uninformed hands. Going into the poll booth without knowing the candidates or their stand on any of the issues is irresponsible. It takes more than just watching the 30-second commercials on TV. You may have to read the candidates' platforms, go to a political rally and hear them speak, check their voting record, or, heaven forbid, read a newspaper. As Gore Vidal remarked, half of the American people have never read a newspaper. Half have never voted for president. One only hopes that it's the same half. Yes, it does take time, but it is our responsibility to be informed voters. Finally, what happens if we don't vote? It seems that every week on national television, millions of American citizens take the time to vote for The Voice. Yet, how many of these same American citizens won't take time to vote for the leader of the free world? The great Western novelist Louis L'Amour once said that to make a democracy work, we must be a nation of participants, not simply observers. One who does not vote has no right to complain. Yet the ones that don't vote are typically the loudest complainers and critics, more than happy to point out flaws after the fact. They criticize their senators and representatives, but as William E. Simon suggested, bad politicians are sent to Washington by good people who don't vote. Voltaire warned of the outcome of our apathy. So long as the people do not care to exercise their freedom, those who wish to tyrannize will do so. For tyrants are ardent and active, and will devote themselves in the name of any number of gods, religious and otherwise, to put shackles upon sleeping men. Wake up, America. Yes, I said wake up, America. Let us not forget how we got our rights. Let us not forget those who have gone before us. And let us never forget those who have died to give us the right to vote, even before some of them were eligible to vote themselves.